Greetings, adventurers. This is DM Kurt, and let's switch gears from the sci-fi and go back into the fantasy settings. Castles and Crusades, Player's Handbook. So, what I thought I would do is I thought I would make up a character for Castles and Crusades and tell you about it. So, let's see how easy it is. What I came up with is that there are several elements that borrow directly from first edition, and there are several elements that look a little more like something you'd see out of fifth. So without further ado, I'll let you know how it went. So first I downloaded a character sheet, which I will provide you the link to in the description down below. It has a nice little worksheet set up so that you can plot out your bonuses and what they eventually mean. But I started up with rolling up attributes. So in the player's handbook, it tells you you will roll 3d6. You won't roll 4d6, drop 1. It's 3d6 for all 6 attributes. It does not say whether you arrange the way you want. I assume that's the way you would want to do it. I went 3d6 straight down the line. That's kind of old school, but the reason I did it is I was going to allow the dice to determine the character class, because I really wasn't sure which character class I really wanted to make up. I was just going to make something up. I ended up with a 6 for strength, which is quite low, a 15 dex, which is not bad for rolling 3d6, 12 constitution, 8 intelligence, a little low on the intelligence there, and 11s for wisdom and charisma. Okay, not bad, but that kind of tells me that I'm going to want to play a rogue. And yes, it's rogue, not thief. That's one of the things I kind of like over, a fifth over first, is I prefer the rogue over thief for the name of the class. Okay, so I figured, okay, let's go with Halfling. Okay, pick Halfling. Halfling gave me a -1 to strength, so that 6 knocked down to a 5, but it gave me a +1 to dexterity, so the 15 went to a 16. Okay, we are really locked into being a rogue. At that point, we write in our class abilities and our race abilities. So for racial abilities, save at +2 versus fear, +1 to all con saves. You get dusk vision, which is, you can see a little bit better during the twilight than your human companions, but you don't get really great vision at night. It's just your vision range is extended a little, but not much. I think maybe they could have kept it simple, but okay, let's go with that. They explain the +2 versus fear and the +1 for con. +1 for con-based saves. Yes. In the lore, as being halflings are very well fed, so there's your health. But as much as they don't seem to be adventurers, they grow up hearing tales of courage and tales of overcoming adversity and being self-reliant. And that sort of philosophical thing has soaked into them. Now, that was kind of cool. I mean, that was a cool little bit, which explains a mechanic using a fun little cultural thing. So you get your prime attributes. Now this means you take a regular attribute and you get a +6 to all ability checks using that. For rogue, you automatically have dexterity as a prime attribute. Boom, that's like proficiency in saving throws. Well, okay, dexterity. I chose intelligence as my other prime attribute. So even though he only has an 8 in intelligence, somehow this slightly dull fellow is not always dull-witted. He sometimes comes up with some really clever ideas. Now, it's going to hurt me when it comes to strength and con, but not that much, so let's not worry about that. Hit dice. So, the rogues only get a d6 for hit points. And in my interpretation of the book, as I'm paging through it, there's absolutely nothing in there about maxing out the roll at first level. First level, you roll it. I got a 2. I have no bonus for hit points for exceptional constitution. So my halfling now has 2 hit points. Okay, That's all right. We can handle that. We can live with that. So next, starting gold. So because you need some gear. So for gear, you think about, say, 5th edition, where you start out with a certain sets of equipment for your class, and then you go to your background, and your background will give you some gold and some more equipment. Not a lot of equipment, but that's how you get it. You get it from these two different sources. Well, here, more 1st edition style, you roll dice, and the amount of dice you roll varies by class. The martial classes that need armor get more gold, but then they have to spend it on armor, because without armor, a fighter's gonna really be in trouble. So I got 3d4 times 10 for a rogue. I rolled that, I got an 8, 8 times 10, I got 80 gold. Okay, that's how you determine it, how much starting gold you get. And then you go into the equipment list, and there is 4 pages of equipment. It gets rather detailed. And, okay, so I'm looking through here, pages 62 through 65. And I choose leather armor, a short sword, and because I'll need a helmet, a leather coif, or leather helmet. Now, some of their heavier armors come with a helmet, and some of the lighter armors do not. And the reason you want to get a helmet is if you don't have a helmet, people can take called shots to your head at a penalty, but then they're looking for that really easy to hit AC for you not wearing a helmet. So you just take the helmet, they'll all take body shots at you, you're good. We also took a backpack, 1 week's worth of iron rations, flint and steel, 5 torches, and a bedroll. I didn't want to get a whole lot of weight on this guy because I knew his strength was low, so I didn't want to carry a whole lot of gear. We still have 50 gold left, and if I take this character to a table, I'm going to want to buy some more gear first, but I wanted to just kind of run through how this works. So we would think about where our encumbrance values are. And it gets a little confusing here. They have both a weight for each piece of gear and an encumbrance value. So, like your short sword, it might weigh like 10 pounds or whatever. It has an encumbrance value of 2. So it's 2 on some kind of chart. What's this chart at? Well, you have an encumbrance rating for your character. It is your strength score. And I believe you might get a couple of points on that. Plus, you also get 3 points if your strength is a prime attribute, or another 3 points if your constitution is a prime attribute. So your fighters and your barbarians, they're going to be having these high statistics and also prime attributes bonuses. So these guys are going to be able to wear heavy armor, carry big loads, and some of your more bookish characters won't. So I get the ratings. Leather armor has a value of 2. Now, worn items, things you wear on your body, subtract 1. So the leather armor has an encumbrance value of 2 if I carry it in my hands, because I'm just walking around town with my armor in my arms for some reason, but only a 1 if I'm wearing it. Yeah, it kind of hinders me a little. Okay. The leather helmet has a 1, so I assume if I'm wearing it, it doesn't count. Please correct me if I'm wrong. Short sword, encumbrance 2. That's not a piece of clothing, so I can't wear it. It's going to be hanging off of a belt. And I did not specifically buy clothes, and I didn't specifically buy a belt. Like I said, this gets into detail in the equipment. But we're at 3 points of encumbrance, essentially. The backpack has an encumbrance value of 2. Okay, so now 3 turns into 5. I have an encumbrance value of 5. I should be okay. The backpack is a capacity item. That's a term they use. It carries other things in it. The backpack has an encumbrance capacity of 8, so you can have up to 8 items of up to 8 encumbrance each. Okay, so my rations, flint and steel, my torches, and my coins are all going to go in there, and that's only going to count as 2 points of encumbrance. So my 3 goes up to a 5 at most. Okay, we can handle that. And now that we've gotten that number, we can double check our encumbrance rating for our little wimpy strength 5 guy. And we can take that 50 gold and we can buy a little bit more gear. You know, maybe you want some string and some silverware, and so that you can, you know, set up and take some nails, and so you can pound nails into a corridor and tie the string across, then hangs the silverware, and if anybody wanders through in the middle of the night, you'll get an alarm of hearing the noise because they won't sneak up on you. And then some marbles to throw out in that same corridor. If anybody's sneaking up on you, they'll trip and fall. We're in kind of an engineering style rather than a storytelling style of game. And the Castle Keeper's Guide kind of emphasizes that, is that you should have a big portion of the game is going to involve you making choices of how do you deal with your resources. This is a resource allocation game in some ways. So yeah, that is a bit of bookkeeping, but that's also an intellectual challenge. Okay, I have all this gear. If I buy more gear to where I'm basically broke, can I maintain the gear I have? And how am I going to spend my downtime? I'm going to upgrade my gear. Am I going to maintain it, repair it, etc.? That's a level of complexity, both for good and for ill, depending on how you feel about that. Okay. Then I go back to the front of the page. I got to figure out my armor class. Armor class is ascending. It starts at 10. Your leather armor does not have an armor class 12. It has an armor rating of +2. Well, you start at 10, you add 2, there's your 12. Simple. Your dexterity modifier, +2 in my case, because yay, I got a 16 out of this. I now have a 14 AC, all the better to save those poor measly little 2 hit points. I'm going to be in trouble if I ever get into a straight up fight. Short sword. Now we got to calculate our combat bonuses. So short sword, base to hit is +0. This is similar to the proficiency bonus of various levels in 5e. Except at first level you start out at a +0, and at higher levels it goes up. Okay, no problem. Strength modifier. It's a hand-to-hand weapon. I have a strength modifier of -2. I have no other modifiers. My total modifiers are -2. Okay. Damage modifier. Because of my low strength, my damage modifier is -2. I have no other sources of damage modifiers. So my weapon, a 1d6 weapon, is 1d6 -2. It would behoove me to cross off short sword and instead buy ranged weapons. Maybe I could get some darts to throw at somebody. Maybe I should be looking over in the rogue group and see if I can pick a short bow, because the rogues are only allowed certain weapons. Not like fighters, you can pick up and use just about anything they want. No, what the rogues are allowed is in a short list, and it's just like 1st or 5th. They're allowed blowpipe. Cool. Broadsword, yeah, right. Cat o' nine tails, cestus, club, dagger, dart. There's our darts, because I'm going to need to use ranged weapons for this guy. Hand axe, hand crossbow. That's probably going to be expensive. Javelin, knife, light crossbow, long sword. We have shortbow in there, so I think shortbow is going to be my best choice here. I can use a sling also. Halfling with a sling. How classic is that? I'd better just scribble that out, put in my choice of shortbow or sling. Much better choice. So obviously we're learning as we go, and I am demonstrating what a bad choice would be. A bad choice would be taking a sword for a character with a strength penalty. That's pretty much it. Now, before I were to take this character to a table, I would look at kind of doctoring up, making some changes in equipment to where I want to fine tune the encumbrance value and my weapon choices. What I would also want to think about is, what's your background? Doesn't matter. You don't have to deal with that. That your background is optional, unlike 5e where you have to pick one and it makes mechanical differences. Your skill choices. 5e you have to choose skills, and you get some from background and you get some from your character class, and there's some overlap sometimes. You have to deal with that. Nope, not here. Here, all of your skills are replaced with attribute checks. Okay, this little dude wants to climb a tree. Well, his strength, that's going to be a strength-based thing. His strength sucks. He has a -2. However, he does have climbing as a class skill. So in a class skill of climb, parentheses, dex. Cool, so I get to use my dex to climb things. And because it's a class ability, I also get to add my level. So any skill that's related to your class, you get to add your level to. So you're going to have a whole bunch of things that you're actually pretty good at. And it's going to be things that make sense for your profession, your class. So for the rogue, I have a special ability called back attack, which is +4 to hit and double damage. Sounds very familiar. This is your sneak attack from 5e. This is straight backstab out of first and second. Thieves' Cant, the special language of lingo and hand and arm signals and such that thieves use to communicate their larcenous mafioso kind of things. They don't want nobody else to really know what they're talking about. Climbing, dexterity. Decipher script, intelligence. Now, decipher script, that's, you're dealing with these stolen goods, and sometimes they're foreign documents and stuff, or they're magic scrolls you managed to pilfer. Intelligence. Hey, I chose int as one of my prime attributes. So good. Now I get that +6. I have an 8, which is -1. I have +6 for being prime, so I'm looking at +5 plus my level. I mean, I'm going to be good at reading things, even though I'm not that smart a guy. Intelligence 8, the character, not me. Hey. Hide, dexterity, with a +2 bonus for being a halfling. Listen, wisdom based. Yeah, okay. Move silently, dexterity, with a +2 for being a halfling. So they're sneaky. Open locks, pickpocket, and various trap-related things. Now, detecting, locating, disarming, or creating your own traps are all intelligence-based. Well, because I chose intelligence, my int's got a -1, prime attribute +6, that's +5, plus my level because it's a class ability. Cool. So he's actually going to be fairly useful, just not in hand-to-hand at all. So he's going to be the guy at the back of the party. As soon as I sell the short sword, buy a short bow, readjust his attribute, readjust his stuff. All in all, doesn't take that long to create a character in Castles and Crusades. It's all the fiddling around with equipment that's really going to slow you down, if anything. Equipment and encumbrance. Now, if you're a castle keeper who wants to run some new players through this game, either run it as is or consider maybe modifying how equipment and money is given out. Just give everybody packages the way that 5e does it. Anyway, that's it. That's all there is to it, to creating a Castles and Crusades character. It acts a lot like 1e, with a couple of 5e things in there. The ascending AC, all of the attributes using the same chart for determining what your modifiers are. So if you have a 15, you get a +1. And it doesn't matter where that 15 is. Where in 1E, every single attribute uses a separate scale for where your modifiers are generated from. The other 1E thing is actually something I don't like, is that we use a different experience point chart for every class. I would say just balance the classes. As a rogue, I need very few XP to get up to level 2. I only need 1251. The ranger needs like 2500. He has a bunch of special abilities and he's tougher, but that's a little fiddly. That's just a minor thing on my part. But that's it. Simple. Easy peasy. DM card.